94.3 The Dude is very grateful to our men and women in uniform. We're proud to recognize local members of our military by turning the spotlight on them right now in our Soldier Salute.
I'm your host, United States Marine Corps veteran Ethan Stitch Gardner, and on today's Soldier Salute, I have United States Navy veteran, president of the University of South Carolina's Student Veterans Association, and director of Corridor to Possibilities, Candace Terry. Candace, thanks so much for being here. Thank you so much for your service. You're the University of South Carolina Student Veterans Association president. Tell me all about the SVA and what the SVA is doing at the University of South Carolina for our veterans.
Absolutely. The SVA is part of a national organization, Student Veterans of America. It was founded somewhere around 2008, I can't remember exactly. But the whole idea was to create a platform to help facilitate the transition from military to civilian. More specifically, from military to student. It's been mentioned several times that's a huge transition to make. The national organization is largely focused on policy agendas and answering the needs of student veterans, like whatever they may be. They were responsible for lobbying for the Forever GI Bill. They're the ones responsible for getting that passed, and a whole bunch of other things they do behind the scenes that we're not even aware of, but they're constantly pushing to make student veterans' lives better. There's this misconception. I was faced with it at the University of Kentucky, and I ran into it again at the University of South Carolina, where you have this mentality of people in higher education who have never served in the military, they haven't been exposed to the military, that people who join the military, and I was said this verbatim, people that join the military don't have the aptitude to go to school, right? They don't have what it needs to succeed in school. So, and it's not the case. You know, the research shows that student veterans are way outperforming the average college student on multiple levels. GPA is usually higher overall. Graduation rates are higher. They're so much more successful than the average college student. And that's one of the things that the SVA pushes. There's this report that you can read they put out on the success of student veterans. It's on their website, sva.org. It talks about all of the things that they do. On a more grassroots level, you have these chapters that are created at each school, and the organization is constantly growing where schools are creating new chapters. At the University of South Carolina, whenever I got there, it was approximately 3 years ago, 2016, 2017, there wasn't a very veteran-friendly climate. There wasn't a whole lot of resources for veterans, and we didn't have a very large footprint on the campus. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to create that footprint and create that visibility. And several things happened. It was a team of us, Ashley Bonnell, James Hull, Brooks Herring, and we brought on Jared Evans as our advisor. And we started pushing, breaking down doors, like, this is what we need. We had this panel discussion that we did with the administrators to talk about the veterans' needs and what the transition was like, because they had no idea. And the only way to get that information out is to start, telling the stories. So we sat up there on this panel and we told our stories of being veterans in higher education.
I don't think most veterans hold it against the civilian executives at the college, but it's not hard to see that being a veteran, being in the military is something that only somebody that did it would be able to understand. We know that we have a plethora of resources at our disposal. We don't know how to get them. We don't know what they are. We need somebody there to help us along.
Absolutely, yeah. So what I learned through this journey was that there was a large misconception about veterans and who they are. Mm-hmm. And it led to kind of a movement of shattering the perception, right? Which was where this PTSD panel started out, talking about what the veterans' experience of post-traumatic stress was like. What I did in order to create this footprint, I came up with some ideas. I had this fellowship at Purdue University. It was the Women Veterans Fellowship. We talked a lot about creating belongingness, right? There's this sense of camaraderie in the military. And what we wanted to do was kind of recreate that sense of camaraderie and give that group membership back to the veterans and create kind of this atmosphere of bonding, right? You want people to bond together. So how do people bond best? And I was like, food. We bond over eating.
That's the easiest way to get me somewhere.
Yeah. So we started doing family dinners, and once a month we'll have a family dinner where everyone is invited. And then what else do veterans love to do? They love to shoot guns. Range day.
Yeah,
yeah.
Where do I sign up? You got to sign up to shoot somewhere? All right, cool.
Yeah, so we just started creating events that we felt like would bring veterans out, and the idea was to tailor to every kind of veteran, because you have your combat veterans, you have your veterans that didn't go to combat. There's this wide plethora. I was actually told at the University of Kentucky that I was in the bourgeois military because I worked at NSA and I didn't go out and experience things outside of this little black box. We wanted it to be inclusive, and that's one of the things that I admired about the group that I worked with was the inclusivity instead of the exclusivity. We want everyone to be involved and included. Some other great things that the team has done is the Purple Heart parking space, which you've seen. We're working on getting registration for veterans waged. A lot of uphill battles, but the things to let veterans know that they're appreciated.
You talked to me earlier about how the University of South Carolina's SVA is headed to D.C. soon. Tell me all about that.
I got invited to a Leadership Institute. It's a very selective kind of fellowship that the Student Veterans of America does, SVA Leadership. During that time, while I was there, it's all about leadership development, but also we talked about this concept known as imposter syndrome, which many, many veterans have, right? So anytime a veteran accomplishes something, when you're in the military, you're part of a team, right? So anything that you do, the team did, and it's always about the team. And veterans have a really hard time talking about their own accomplishments. I accomplished this. And there's this fear that you'll be found out as a fraud, no matter what you've accomplished, right? It's a fascinating concept, but we really, really focused on that. While I was there, I talked to one of the policy people about some issues that we were having at the University of South Carolina where veterans were having to come out of pocket for their tuition, right? And to me, this isn't fair. You served your country, you've paid into the GI Bill or post 9/11, whatever.
Yeah, that's another thing that some civilians don't understand is you have to. It's not an option. When you join the military, you begin paying into that benefit the day that you get there. And they like to brag that we got the GI Bill, but we paid into it. It wasn't just given to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you pay into it, so I don't feel like you should be coming out of pocket. So I bring this up to the policy team. They're like, policy team's out there, go talk to them. So I go and talk to them. They were really excited about what I had to say, so I got invited to participate in this program called the Policy Liaison Program, where we meet once a month to talk about different policy issues around veterans. Homelessness is one of the issues that's coming up for student veterans, and then the amendments to the Choice Act and things like that. So the last conference call, they let us know, they're like, hey, we're going to be having joint hearings coming up, and we want you guys to come out and support us. All the VSOs are going to be talking at these joint hearings, and there's going to be a lot of other things going on. And if you have any policies you would like to bring up on your own, we invite you to come and speak at the joint hearings as well. I was like, that sounds amazing. I'm going to bring my crew. There's
a large possibility that you might be able to get up there on the stand and speak on the veterans' issues that you find are important.
I absolutely have that opportunity. I don't know if I'm going to take it or not. I had the opportunity to speak at the State House, the Passionate Care Act hearing. I was so nervous. And I can't imagine if I got that nervous, I was shaking and I was having a really hard time like catching my breath. My heart was beating so fast. I'm like, if I got that way at the State House here in Columbia, South Carolina, what's going to happen in D.C.?
I'd like to think of myself as a pretty good public speaker. I don't know if I could do that either. That's very, very awesome. If you decide to take the podium, I understand that they are going to let you discuss whatever topics you'd like to. Are there any in your mind that you kind of put before any others that you think maybe might be the top talking point that you want to discuss?
I've reached out to my fellow veterans at the University of South Carolina and asked them what their policy issues are. Because despite me being the president for 3 years and dubbing myself Madam Dictator, I still feel that this is a democracy and I should represent the student population and the veterans of Columbia. No, I'm completely open to suggestions.
Thanks for joining us in our Soldier Salute, presented by Little Pig's Barbecue, serving Columbia since 1963 with that bodacious buffet. And Palmetto State Armory, American made for life. And Franklin Equipment, rent, buy, rely. And Atkins Law Firm Workers' Comp Attorneys, who you hire matters.